So I chose a woman named Nellie Bly, and she was born around the American Civil War. So she was born in 1864. I've always, since I was a little kid, been fascinated by this woman because she really opened doors for women in journalism and really other things too. So my background is my mother was a really early feminist in the town where I lived here in the States. And so I kind of grew up watching her be influential in the early feminist movement. And so this is a no-brainer for me to choose a woman like this because she had a really tough upbringing and she saw her father abuse her mother as she was growing up. And that made a big influence on her in that she really wanted to see change come for women. As she got older, she loved writing because she didn't have much money. She had to end up dropping out of college. So she never got a university degree, but she worked at a boarding house. So like they rented out rooms because it was really common then, very British style, like to have a big house and just rent a single room to someone. And she had that with her mother, but she really wanted to be a writer. She was living in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania at the time, and she went to a newspaper there and showed her writing, and they said, yeah, we'll hire you. But they only wanted her to write for women. So women were writing for newspapers and magazines, but they weren't allowed to write about anything to do with men. It was about the domestic arts, as we say in English. So it was like, cooking and cleaning and things like that. And that was not satisfying to her. So she was part of this early group of journalists. The time of U.S. history was called the Progressive Era. And just like that word says, like some shitty things were happening, especially to workers, really around the world. But I'm just talking about the U.S. for now. And all these journalists were starting to really go underground and expose really bad things. Like Upton Sinclair was one. He exposed all the bad things happening in the meat packing industry in the Chicago area. But Nellie Bly, her first real gig in this world was she pretended she was mentally ill and got into it. They were then called insane asylums. And there was this notorious one in the New York City area. And she went for 10 days. They checked her in as a patient. It was disgusting. I mean, they were kept locked up, shackled, and given really awful food or very little food. There were rats running over their bodies. So this is how we treated people with intellectual disabilities. And she got out and exposed that. And she really did change. That was the beginning of change with the way intellectually disabled people are treated. So she is really responsible for what we now call investigative journalism. Before reporters just reported. They didn't really get deep into things. So I just really admire her for this reason. It was doubly hard for her being a woman in this world because it was highly unusual. And she actually went on to be the first woman reporting on the front lines of World War I in Europe. So I think it's often called the Great War in Europe, I think. But, so that was highly unusual too. So she was a groundbreaker in a lot of different ways. And so, yeah, that's why I picked her. And I was a longtime U.S. history teacher. I'm doing something different now, but this was a period of U.S. history that I most love teaching because it's something I think a lot of people don't know very deeply, even Americans. So, and she's not well known even here in this country. So that's why I picked Nellie Bly.